Hey guys, how's it going? This is Mike from M&R Automotive. Today we have a Ram 3500 and we're going to be installing the M&R fog light kit. First thing we have to do is remove the factory fog light kit. If you have a different fog light kit, you're still going to have to remove it, whether it's a slotted version or the squared. If you just have the plate, you will have to remove it as well and order one of these bezels. Next step, I want to peel this inner fender out. So I'm just going to grab it by the bottom and take it out. There's one clip that we can remove here, so that way it peels off a little bit more. I'm going to use a prying tool to get this clip out. Alright, now we can get to the factory fog light kit. Keep in mind that most of the installation is going to be from the bottom. I just wanted to get in here so that way I can take out the 4 bolts that are holding the factory fog light kit in. There's 4 on 4 sides. I'll show you after removing where exactly they are. And the 4th one, let me get on the bottom. I'm going to do it from the bottom. It's probably easier. So the 4 bolts that we've removed would be this one, 1, 2. There's a 3rd one here, and the hardest one to get to is right here. So you can use a wrench to get in there without an issue. And then afterwards, the fog light kit just removes. I'm going to go ahead and get this clip out just to get this harness out and unclip all the electronics, and we'll be done. There's a couple of clips, and all they're doing is just holding the wiring. So now I'm going to go ahead and unclip the factory harness from the fog light kit and just remove the unit. We'll go over some of the things we've done. We've removed 4 bolts, which are 10mm. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Unclipped 3 harness clips. 1, 2, and 3. I'll just do it with a prying tool, just get it under, unclip it. It's just plastic pins. And the last thing we did was just unclip the harness from the fog light kit itself, the factory harness, just to release it. And here it is, we're going to get it replaced. I'm going to show you how to assemble the lights to the M&R brackets, and we'll install it on the truck. What you get is 6 lights, 2 mounting brackets, all the mounting hardware, and a wiring harness. The wiring harness is only going to connect and bridge the 2 light fixtures together, and then you'll take it to a power source. This is already an assembled unit, and let me show you how I assembled it. So we're going to go ahead and grab an M4 bolt and washer. We're going to feed it through. Okay, I'm just going to finger thread it so that way we can get the lights on, and then we will use a wrench to angle them and tighten them. There's 2 slots that are pointing forward. There's 1 slot that is pointing backwards, but the light itself goes on the same way. This is just positioning it on the vehicle itself. So now it's time to angle these lights, and the way I like to do it is that the inner light is as close to the bracket as possible. I'm going to tighten this here. You might want to install this bracket on the truck to see what angle you want them pointing at. So now that I like the angle, I have tested it on the truck. I like this angle of my fog light kit, and I'm going to do the final adjustment before we install the whole unit on the truck itself. Excellent. If you want to take a look at the bolt patterns, this is how I had it done for optimal angle. Now that we have the M&R units assembled, we're going to reuse the factory hardware that we removed in the previous step, except we're going to put 2 washers that are supplied with this kit of where the bolts are going into. So let's go ahead and jump onto the truck and get these installed. I'm going to go ahead and bring the unit up here. I'm going to use the factory bolt with an added washer, and I'm going to thread it back into the same thread. Remember, there were 4 bolts, 2 on top and 2 on the bottom, that were removed on a factory fog light kit. With the M&R, we're only using 2 of them, and just the 2 on the top. Usually when you tighten the first bolt, you should be able to see the alignment of the fog light kit from the outside of the vehicle. Make sure that you like the angle before you tie down the second bolt. Now that I like the angles of these lights, we are going to tie down those 2 bolts from the inside of the bumper and finish installing the passenger side. We are using a brand new product that I really love. You can purchase it on the M&R website, and it's a wireless 8-circuit control panel. The benefit of this is that you can wire everything in the engine bay around your battery, and you do not have to drag any control wires inside the vehicle through the firewall. Various stickers so that way you can identify the buttons you have. As the main power block, you get a wireless remote. There's a power strap that goes to the positive of the battery with an 80 amp fuse. And there's also a ground. We're going to remove the 4 Phillips bolts that are holding the cover. Every fuse is labeled with the amperage that it's rated for, and there's a master positive and a master ground on here. So let's go ahead and connect the positive and the negative to the module and connect it to the battery. Before I do that, I usually like to make sure that the fuse on the master wire is actually turned in the off position. So if the fuse is in line, that means there's power going through it. What we want to do, we want to break it so that makes sure it's not in line, so that way when you're wiring everything to the module, that you're not going to get electrocuted or short anything out. So one of the ends is going to go directly to the battery, and then one of the ends is going to go towards the positive terminal on the module itself. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to slide the wire underneath, I'm going to slide this terminal under it, and I'm going to go ahead and tighten it. Next thing I'm going to do is the same thing with the ground terminal. So now we're ready to connect the other ends to the battery of the vehicle. So now that we have the power and the ground and the control module, let's go ahead and connect it to the battery. Keep in mind, remember that this has to be disconnected, so that way there's no power going to it. So what we're going to do on the power side, I'm going to go ahead and loosen it. I'm going to slide the terminal. Alright, so the power is done. Now we're going to do the same thing to the ground. Excellent. So the only thing that's left is to connect the M&R lights to the module, and then we can go give it a test run. So with the M&R fog light kit, you will receive a wiring harness, and it's going to allow to bridge the two fog light kits, the passenger and the driver side, together, and then it's going to split off at the driver's side, and then you'll be able to extend this wire up to take it to a power source. You can either tap these two power sources to factory auxiliary switches, or in this truck's installation, because we don't have auxiliary switches, we will use the M&R wireless wiring harness module. You will also receive two grounding straps, one for the driver's side, one for the passenger. So I probably should have done this on the bench when we were assembling the lights together, but now we got to fuse all the yellows together, all the blues and all the brown wires, so that way we can crimp it to the wiring harness. So yellow, yellow, and we're going to add one more yellow. So you mainly want 3 bundles. So from these fog light kits, the yellow wire, that's going to be the power to the amber DRL function. The brown wires, they're going to be the main power for the white light. And the blue wire, that's going to be the ground. Here, now you can see how I fused them all together. Now let's go ahead and connect it to a wiring harness. I decided to run the wiring harness through this bracket here, so that way I can zip tie it to it later and just make it neater. So what I'm going to do, I have 2 power sources. We're going to ultimately need 2 different circuits, and right now we're choosing which one is going to be the power to the white light, which one's going to be the amber DRL. So I've decided to use the white wire from the wiring harness to connect to the brown, which means that the white wire is going to be the power to the main white light. The red wire is going to connect to the yellow, and that's going to be the power wire to the DRL. So I'm going to go ahead and crimp all the blue wires to the grounding strap that's provided. So now we got to find a nice ground. So I'm going to try to use these clips to ground them out, the ones that we originally removed the bolts from. Alright, so now we're ready to do the same thing on the driver's side. So notice on the driver's side we have the Y intersection, because one of the ends is going to go to a power source where the other end is going to bridge off to the passenger side. So we have chosen the white wire to be the power to the main white light. So that's going to be the power to the brown cables. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing for the red wire, and the grounding strap is going to be connected to the blue wires. That's our ground. So I'm going to go ahead and use the grounding strap. I'm going to attach it to the clips from the original bolts that we removed. Technically it's touching steel, so it should be a good grounding point. Now we got to go give power to the wiring harness. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and feed this through into the engine bay. It's a good idea to feed this through and maybe somebody grab it from the top, but there's a space here I can see light, and I'm just gonna feed it through here.
Oh, I see it. Hold on, let me grab it. Oh, that was actually really easy.
Now that we have our light here, we're going to connect it to the wireless module. I'm gonna go ahead and feed my 2 power wires through. We are going to use a designated 10 amp circuit for the white light, and we're going to use a 5 amp circuit for the amber DRL. We're just doing the positives because the ground is already on the chassis of the vehicle. Release these terminals, feed the wires, and then get those connected. So the white light is going to be on this switch, and as you tighten it, it gets crimped, and that's how it holds power. And then we're gonna go ahead and use the 5 amp for the DRL. So let's now go ahead and turn the circuit back on because it was in the off position, and then we can test them. Switch number 1 is going to be the amber DRL function, which is working perfectly as wired. And then if we turn it off, we're going to use this button for the powerful white light. Now that we know everything's wired properly, we're going to go ahead and use some zip ties, put some heat on those crimp connectors so that way they become watertight, and then mount the power distribution box somewhere in the engine bay so that way it doesn't move around. Thank you guys for watching. I know you're going to love the product, and make sure to tune in. We're going to do a night output video later on today.